Hi junior hires, so we were able to go through chapters 1 through 2, and some of the characters that we mentioned is Naomi and Ruth. They just went to Bethlehem and they interacted with Boaz. And right now Naomi, we're going to be going to a story I think of it as a romantic story. So if you like a little romance, this is really great, especially in this chapter where it seems that Naomi is edging her daughter-in-law to try to woo Boaz, and it's kind of funny in a way. She tells her to wash and perfume yourself and put on your best clothes, then go down to the threshing floor. And a threshing floor, it's more of a pavement. Again, Boaz has fields and does a whole bunch of harvesting, so think of grain and farm stuff. So Ruth replies that I will do whatever you say, and she is obedient to Naomi, and I guess I would relate to her if I was in her position. I wouldn't go against someone that I really respect. So when she did that, Boaz was found. He was eating and drinking in good spirits, which you can find in chapter 3, verse 7. Then she actually startled him, and Boaz asked, "Who are you?" And then she said, "I am your servant Ruth." She said, "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman redeemer." And a kinsman redeemer is really important. It's, in a way, having the responsibility of taking care or protecting someone, and usually they're a male relative. So he went on in verse 10, "The Lord bless you, my daughter." He replied, "This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for all you ask." So it seems that Boaz is interested. When Ruth was brave enough to put herself out there, and Boaz did take notice of her, but he wants to do things in the right way. So when I was saying about the kinsman redeemer, he is eligible to marry Ruth, except there's another person before him that is more qualified to marry her and take the property, so no one forgets his name or family line. And that's really important, family lineage. So she lay at his feet, verse 14, She lay at his feet until morning and got up before anyone could be recognized. And he said, "Don't let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor." So how bad would it look if you see a person or two people who aren't exactly together, and at night it just looks really weird? So they were going to make it look that Ruth was busy and she was working in the fields, and so she had brought, I believe it's called sheaves of barley. Don't quote me, but I believe that's what it's called. 6 measures of barley, it says. And so she didn't return empty-handed, and then she sent back word to Naomi. Okay, so now we're in chapter 4, and in some of the Bibles, it might be titled as Boaz marries Ruth, so you won't be surprised, or you might have an idea what's going to happen. But it says that Boaz was going to take some measures and go through the process to try to have Ruth as his wife. And He made sure to have 10 witnesses. In verse 2, Boaz took 10 of the elders of the town and said, "Sit here," and they did so. Then he said to the kinsman redeemer, "Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling the piece of land." So he was going to have 10 witnesses to make sure that people were knowing what's going to happen and there's evidence on his intentions. And he also brought the first kinsman redeemer who's more qualified. And he's mentioned this where I thought I should bring the matter to your attention and suggest that you buy it in the presence of these seated here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, do so. But if you will not, tell me. So he's just being really clear to take matters and go ahead and buy the property. And the first kinsman redeemer, he was actually willing to do so. And Boaz went ahead and reminded him that he was to also marry or have the wife of the widower. And then he actually went back and rethought that because he was worried that it would taint his name or it would affect him. So then he said that he won't be able to fulfill doing so. And that's why Boaz was actually allowed to go ahead, marry Ruth, and so that actually ended up working out. So that's like a pretty happy ending. But it doesn't stop there. So once they agreed that the whole process was good to go and that the elders were figured out that the kinsman redeemer of the first one backed out and now Boaz was going to fulfill those duties, then later on they ended up having a child. And Naomi is super happy. Just having a baby in the house, that's pretty cool and fun. And then Naomi took the child, laid him in her lap, and cared for him. The woman living there said, "Naomi has a son," and they named him Obed. And that's on verse 16. So it goes on with the genealogy of David. And so just the fact that a Gentile and someone who's Jewish, this is where it actually comes from, the king of David, the same guy who is in David and Goliath. And that's another story that you should also look into. And it's pretty interesting to just see the correlations on one story and that it carries on later in history. But I do hope that you have a clear message on what goes on in Ruth. Please reread and feel free to ask any questions to clarify. And have a great summer, guys. Bye.